Guys, my entire setup is different. My whole desk is like, it used to be here, now it's here. And you can see my bed now, and you can see that you know what, never mind. That's not the point of this video. So the final mainline Fazbear Frights book titled Prankster just came out, and today I'm going to be doing a summary on the first story in the book, obviously titled Prankster. And the story is pretty short, but it's pretty good, but it's also really confusing. So without further ado, let's just hop in. The story actually starts off in a pretty weird way. Rather than starting the way most stories do, this one starts with exposition and backstory to the main character, Jeremiah. 4 years ago, Jeremiah, straight out of college, got this job at a game studio that had made a few decently successful video games. But for the past 3 years, the company had been firing a lot of people and the revenue went down too. It's also interesting that we get another mention of 3 years. If you haven't really realized, then well, I'll just explain now. The concept of 3 years ago being mentioned in a story has happened quite often in the Fazbear Frights stories. It happens in The Real Jake, Into the Pit, and a few more. This is far from the first time it's been mentioned, and I just find it interesting that it's back, but we don't really know if it means anything or not. But anyway, Jeremiah was thinking of quitting, but then Fazbear Entertainment bought out the game studio in order to make their new VR game. Sounds oddly familiar, doesn't it? Jeremiah decides to stay because, for one, there's a girl named Hope at the game studio that he really likes, and two, he's excited for the opportunity of working with VR. Also, Hope has blonde hair and brown eyes, which becomes slightly important later. And Jeremiah has tried twice to tell her he likes her, but he's never really able to. Only 3 people still work at the game studio: Jeremiah, Hope, and this other guy named Parker. In the first actual scene of the story, Jeremiah took a sip of his coffee to find that it was incredibly sour. Parker's doing. So, Parker is quite a prankster. No? As it turns out, Parker had put apple cider vinegar in Jeremiah's coffee as a prank. Hope also witnessed it and she found it funny, but Parker had recorded it and she deleted it because she didn't think Parker should post it anywhere. She thought no one else needed to see it, and Jeremiah appreciated that. Jeremiah played it off as if it was just a funny joke, but he wasn't exactly laughing on the inside. Jeremiah thought Parker was kind of childish in a way, that he was like mischievous but not malevolent. Jeremiah didn't think he should stay mad at Parker, so he just laughed it off and said he might get him back one day as a joke. Parker joked on his way out that many have tried and failed. Jeremiah and Hope were the only ones left in the room, and they had a little conversation before she left. Apparently, Hope has to do other people's jobs sometimes because most of the old employees are gone now. So anyway, Jeremiah goes home later and eats leftover Chinese takeout for dinner and watches an action movie about a hero in an expensive black suit beating up people, and imagines himself being the hero and beating up Parker. I don't know, but this seems like a James Bond movie, but that's not relevant. So when the movie is over, he switches to a game show and falls asleep, dreaming about being on a date with Hope. He woke up and his goal for the day was basically to be a nice guy. When he got to work, Hope and Parker were looking at something and laughing, and when Jeremiah came in, Parker made a joke about the vinegar, and Hope told Jeremiah that Parker promised to be on his best behavior today. Then Parker, with an evil grin, said even his good behavior wasn't good. So Jeremiah gets to work, and yeah. Later, Hope comes in to tell him that Parker is getting sandwiches and asks if Jeremiah wants one, and he does. Hope entirely accurately guesses what kind of sandwich Jeremiah wants, and Jeremiah kind of thinks to himself that he's really predictable, and that becomes a little important later on. There's also a little mistake here where it accidentally says Parker instead of Jeremiah, but yeah, that doesn't really matter. Later, the 3 of them have lunch in the break room, and we're also told that Hope is a vegetarian because, quote, animals are friends, not food.
Fish are friends, not food.
Then they talk a bit about movies and stuff, and then when Jeremiah ate a chip, his mouth burned up. As it turns out, Parker slipped a spicy chip into Jeremiah's regular chips. What a dick. Hope even calls him out on it, and yeah. Parker just leaves the room yelling, "Later, losers!" and he throws up his hand in an L shape. Hope goes to make sure Jeremiah is okay, and he finds it nice to see how much she cares. Then we get to Jeremiah meeting up with his friends Matt and Ty. They met when they were in college, but they'd grown up a lot since then, but they still make it an effort to hang out once a week every Tuesday. This got me thinking that the bite victim's birthday could possibly be on a Tuesday, since we see Michael and his friends also hanging out on his birthday. Kind of a weak parallel, I know, but it's just a little thought I had. Also, Jeremiah seems more like a bite victim parallel rather than a Michael parallel, so yeah, a little bit of a weak parallel. It's just, like I said, a little thought I had. They met up at this place called Leonardo's Pizza. Ty has a girlfriend and Matt has a wife and kid named Connor. I also find it interesting that Jeremiah, in a story about a VR game production, has a friend named Matt, just like the main character of that other story about a VR game production. You know, the one with Fetus Trap? Anyway, Jeremiah tells his friends about work and Hope, and they try to encourage him to ask her out. Eventually, he decides he's going to. When he got to work, Jeremiah hoped to find Hope alone. Get it? Hoped to find Hope alone? No? Okay. He hoped she'd be alone, but it turns out Parker and Hope were going to test the game together and have Jeremiah monitor everything from the outside. When they were inside, Jeremiah kept hearing them laughing, and he worried that they were doing stuff besides testing the game, which is, very strange. And, yeah. When they came out of the testing room laughing, Jeremiah said he was sick and went home because he didn't want to be there. Right before leaving, he saw that Hope was biting her lower lip, which is apparently something she did when she was excited. Interesting. I wonder what she could be excited about. When he got home, he remembered that tomorrow was his birthday. He decided to pretend it wasn't because he didn't think anyone would remember anyway. We also learned that Jeremiah used to go to Freddy's with his friends when he was younger. So the next day when he got to the office, he was surprised to see balloons and a banner wishing Jeremiah a happy birthday. But when he looked around, he couldn't find anyone. He looks around some more and finds a cake in the break room for him. But no Parker and no Hope. Well, maybe some Hope. But I mean, no Hope as in hope the person is... You know what? Forget it. Suddenly, Jeremiah hears someone saying his name from the loudspeaker, which surprised him since it was never used. The voice was distorted, but Jeremiah had a strong feeling the voice was Parker, and that he, quote, decided to make him the victim of a birthday prank. Interesting. Sounds like FNaF 4's minigames to me, honestly, but whatever. The voice continues to speak and says that they have kidnapped Hope and Parker and will kill them if he calls the police. He says Jeremiah has the choice to either leave and survive or have 30 minutes to try to save his friends. Jeremiah was unconvinced by this since he was pretty sure it was just Parker. Jeremiah started looking for clues, and the voice on the speaker gave him a clue which was an anagram. Stinger Moot. Before actually continuing to read, I actually took like a minute to figure this out myself, and I came to the conclusion that the clue was actually testing room, since it was an anagram. Jeremiah also figured that out pretty quickly, and so he went into the testing room and found a small box with a purple bow on it. The purple bow in my eyes seems to indicate a connection to Fredbear, which to me seems to further connect Jeremiah to the bite victim, but that could be a stretch. Though either way, I think Jeremiah is a parallel to the bite victim. Inside the box, Jeremiah found 7 teeth. Yeah, very interesting, isn't it? There was also a piece of paper inside the box that said, "Sink your teeth into this clue, Jeremiah. Give me one and I'll make more. Each one like the one before. What am I?" Jeremiah quickly thought of the copy machine and headed to the copy room. When he got there, he found a bunch of normal stuff. One thing he found was a jar of what he thought were paper clips, but turned out to be fingernails. Like full-on fingernails. Jeremiah thought they were just props, and yeah, he just emptied the jar, and inside was a piece of paper that said, "You nailed this challenge. Your next clue contains even more frights. To get there, you just need to follow the lights." And so Jeremiah went on his way following the lights. He eventually makes it to a room where he finds 3 eyeballs. Yeah. But this part is actually really interesting. You see, 2 of the eyeballs are brown, just like Hope's. This seems to imply that these eyeballs are meant to represent or actually be Hope and Parker's eyes. But the more interesting thing is that there's a blue eye, but only one of them. This eye seems to represent Parker's, but why is there only one? Well, think. Who's a FNaF character that has only one eye? Or at least allegedly? Foxy. And name a bully from the games who pranks someone on their birthday and also has a connection to Foxy. Obviously, Funtime Fret. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, Foxy Bro. And this might be a stretch, but this can also further support Mike Bro if you really think about it, because this eye is blue. And as we've already said, this eye belongs to Parker, who is the Foxy Bro parallel. And who else has blue eyes? Michael Afton. But all that is just a thought I had. Honestly, this all just seems to fit together really well, so I thought I should mention it, even if it means nothing. Underneath the blue eye was another clue directing Jeremiah to follow the light, which led to the office where he found a bunch of severed fingers. Jeremiah literally threw up at this, and he looked closer at one of them and saw that it wore a ring that Hope always wore. But he also memorized Hope's attributes because he spent a lot of time staring at them, which, yeah, okay. But either way, he sees a freckle on the finger, a freckle Hope doesn't have. He kept following clues and eventually had to stick his hand into a box of intestines and rummage around to find a key. And he does find the key and wants it to be over, but the voice says he still has to find what the key leads to. In the next room he went to, he found a box. Inside the box was a face that was stripped off a human skull. A face that belonged to Parker. Jeremiah finally realizes that this wasn't a prank, but that it was real. And so what does he do? He just runs. Like, what else would he do? He runs all the way down the 15 sets of stairs, passing bloodstains on the way, and when he finally makes it to the bottom, the doors are all locked and he has no way out. The only thing he can do is go back up. When he makes it to the 6th floor, he notices that there's lights around the 6th floor door, the same lights that led Jeremiah around the hallways. He realizes that there's really nothing else for him to do, and so he goes onto the floor. Not like the actual, like, the ground, but I mean, like, he goes onto the 6th floor. He walks through the hallway and finds a really old TV and a VCR. He hits the play button and a video starts playing of Hope and Parker setting up for Jeremiah's big surprise. They talked about how much work they put in, and weirdly enough, they mention how now that they're done, they probably need to go to the hospital. What? This part really confused me, but there's not much time to be confused because Parker on the video gives a signal saying, "Okay, Parker, he's ready, give us a knock." And then a knocking sound comes from the supply closet nearby the room Jeremiah was in. And then Parker in the video says they have a lot more work to do and menacingly opens and closes a pair of pliers. Then the supply closet door slowly starts opening, and that's where the story just ends. What? This confuses me so much. Like, I legitimately don't know what I just read. I have no idea what even happened.
A few moments later.
Okay, so I just had a conversation on Discord with the man himself, Blazing Storm, and I think I get it. It's still super confusing and weird, but it seems like when they were in this testing room, Parker and Hope could have possibly been infected by some sort of entity from the game. Possibly the same or a similar entity as Springtrap in the flesh, or even Glitchtrap himself. It seems like in the flesh, Springtrap and whoever this is are supposed to represent Glitchtrap, but their storylines are quite different in certain and many ways. So like I said, it seems like Hope and Parker were infected by a Glitchtrap-esque virus that kind of made them insane. And so for Jeremiah's birthday, they come up with this insane prank where they literally pretend someone has kidnapped them and then mutilate themselves. At the end of the video, that seems to be when they chop off their fingers using the pliers. They also take their eyes out and all that. But I think the most definitive evidence that Hope and Parker are infected by a Glitchtrap-esque entity is the fact that Parker cuts off his face, just like Jeremy does in FNaF VR. But after cutting off his face, he's still alive and hides in the supply closet, waiting for Jeremiah to go down there. But my biggest question regarding the story is, what the hell happened to Hope? There's also the question of who's on the loudspeaker, but I think this is just a recording of Parker saying all this. How? I mean, that doesn't make much sense considering the person on the loudspeaker actually replies to what he says, until you stop and consider what happens earlier in the story. The story makes an effort to establish that Jeremiah is really predictable, so it's entirely possible that Parker was just able to predict everything he would do and say. Also, yes. But there's one more thing I want to talk about, and that is what this story could be telling us, and it's pretty simple. Like I said before, the thing with the eyeballs could potentially give bits of evidence for Mike Bro. But not only does getting mutilated connect with Jeremy and FNaF VR, but it also connects to Mike and Sis location. But not only that, the bully with a Foxy connection gets mutilated just like Mike and Sister location. So that's pretty much all there is to talk about for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please do leave a like and subscribe, and don't forget that I'm doing videos just like this for the next 2 stories in this book, Kids at Play and Find Player 2, as well as the epilogue. So stay tuned for those videos, and yeah, that's all, and I'll see you all in the next video.